Hello and welcome to the LovoCast. We've got a new name for what this is. It's not long form content with Lovo, is it? Because apparently Tony thought that was dog shit. So it's the LovoCast. That's point number one. Point number two is I did not expect to be back so soon. We chose our first day of podcasting on quite an auspicious day. There's never been, I don't recall a time of certainly recent memory where there's been quite so much drama in the DCS world. Well, before I ask, do either of you chaps, let's introduce who we've got here. It's Tony again. Here's Tony. And
hello.
yeah, thank you. And we've got Mr. What did I say? Small hairy Italian man. It's Veltro.
Hello.
Of DCS Olympus fame also. So that was my first question. Can you gentlemen recall a time where quite so much shit has hit such a large fan?
No.
I can. I think World War II was pretty bad, was it?
Yeah.
How wrong did we get it yesterday?
We got it pretty wrong. Luckily, we're usually pretty cagey about being definitive about things, and I think that might have saved us. But what we hung our hats on appears to be the opposite of the truth, or at least as far as any sort of truth can be gleaned from the situation. It's still not clear, if you ask me. Shall I present the timeline as I have it, and then we can discuss? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to recap what I talked about last LovoCast, because you can, it's time-stamped. You can just go back an episode and find it yourself. So there were some, the one sentence catch-up is that some of the developers in ED-Razbam were kind of saying cryptic messages about something bad's going to happen. And then we got a statement. And the statement, I'll shuffle through what I can. So it pointed out that there were not any recent Razbam updates, and that until further notice, all support for Razbam developed aircraft modules is on hold. This includes, but is not limited to bug fixes and updates. They wanted to affirm an unwavering commitment, pointing out basically that they're, they still want to continue. They hope for a swift resolution so they can resume their normal operations. However, until these issues are resolved, we will not be issuing any updates to their products. They ask for understanding, a situation that Razbam Simulations did not seek and which has previously seriously affected other parties. For example, Heatblur Simulations. We'll come back to that. But they have been patient, perhaps too patient, waiting for a resolution from the responsible parties. Now they find it necessary to take a stand and await a practical solution to the deadlock. And then they thank fellow party developers. And the suspension will remain in effect until the significant issues between Eagle Dynamics and Razbam Simulations LLC are resolved to our mutual satisfaction. Once these issues have been addressed, we will resume our standard practice of bug fixing, updates and upgrades, just as we have since our inception as developers for DCS. That is from Ron Zambrano, CEO of Razbam. Shortly following that, ED made an announcement. I think first I'll point out, I thought it was a little bit humorous that because of the way the Eagle Dynamics Discord is set up, all social media posts from third-party developers get featured in a page and people get pinged. So this was in no small part published on the ED Discord, which I thought was interesting. The shortly following ED announcement, following the message published by Ron Zambrano of Razbam, I believe it necessary to rectify some of the unfounded allegations and to reassure the community that everything is being done to resolve the current situation promptly and for the benefit of all concerned. Without entering into the details of matters that are confidential to the parties, we firmly reject the allegations that the current disagreement between Eagle Dynamics and Razbam Simulations would be, as stated by Razbam, quote, due to circumstances completely beyond our control, end quote. And that is quote, a situation that Razbam simulations did not seek, end quote. On the contrary, the current disagreement is the result of improper actions that have been taken by Razbam in breach of its contractual obligations towards our company and our legally protected IP rights, and for which we are seeking a reasonable and forward-looking commercial outcome rather than entertaining legal claims. We very much regret that Ron Zambrano has decided, without even pre-advising us, to make these disparaging public statements, and more importantly, to take the customers of the Razbam developed aircraft as leverage in a discussion with us. Please rest assured we are addressing the situation with the utmost attention and constructiveness. Many thanks, kind regards, Nick Gray, who is, I believe, the owner CEO of Eagle Dynamics. Anyone got any thoughts, reactions to what you thought when you read that for the first time?
What a pickle. That was, I think, my first reaction.
Dill pickle.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but no, I don't recall such a big drama and such a public... like, these are the two bosses of the two companies, aren't them? That is, to me, the most striking difference from other similar episodes in the past, when maybe you had developers or people involved talking and posting stuff. This time is the big guys.
Yeah, in the past, it was more like people saying stuff like, "Oh, we haven't released this part of it," and a little bit of a snippet behind the scenes of that type of stuff. But it wasn't like a full-blown fight, argument, whatever, legal dispute. Probably is what it reads like.
What I've got next is some of the snippets from Razbam devs, and I've got a little snippet from a Heatblur moderator, but we did touch on this in the last episode, where I pointed it out. I don't know if you agreed or not, Tony, when we said it, but it did feel like the handle that Razbam had on public relations was, well, more volatile, to put it nicely, I suppose, is a way. The fact that they are that their employees, the developers, had such a free rein to comment personally, and obviously, like, people should have the ability to comment where they see fit, but as an organization, I think it led to a lot of the sort of furor in the Discord of people where the original cryptic messages were coming out. And at this point, if you take what I've just sort of quoted and read out, and then the bit I'm about to describe, like, we're getting a lot more of the details from not the public faces of these organizations. We're getting it almost behind the scenes, which is I think not going to be as well considered, or as ED put, constructive.
Well, as a rule, I try to always disagree with everything you do and say, as you know. But
you're such a good co-host.
That's why I'm such an asshole. But like, this is the bit where we were talking about, like, when we said, like, a media training would be a thing most companies make you do, and you'd wait for the big public statement because you can manage things so your emotions don't get in the way and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's great for drama. It's great, and we get to see a lot of, obviously, people that are very angry and the opinions and stuff like that. But let's say this does come down to like a civil dispute or legal matter type thing. Why would you be saying all of these things? They all read to me like they're going to hurt you pretty bad.
Yeah, you don't want to... If you're going to stand up in front of somebody and say, we were always constructive and trying to be positive and trying to resolve the situation, and then someone could turn around, well, look at what your employees are saying, you're going to have to make the argument that they didn't speak for you, or I don't know how that stuff works out, but either way, it's going to...
Do you feel like it's a net loss? Because, like, it's just a bad situation is what it feels like to me. And whatever happens now, it feels like a bit of a loss for both sides.
Well, this is a different way of putting it. Maybe this answers your question. Like, it feels like some bridges are burning. And if you read, if you recall the original Razbam statement, it says, this will be in effect until Eagle Dynamics and Razbam resolve stuff to mutual satisfaction. But let me go over what some of the Razbam
Well, before you do that, I'm curious if, like, Veltro, do you think that there will be no more DCS World? Because that's what everyone's saying.
Yeah, that is what I've been watching the Discord, the DCS.
It's been busy, isn't
Discord.
it? Hasn't it been busy?
Yeah. And I actually am a bit sad that a lot of people seem to be actually concerned that tomorrow DCS is no longer going to exist, and all the money they have spent on modules is going to be lost. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
No.
It's not good. I agree on that. But I think, as you said, they both have to lose if they burn bridges. So I think they're going to try and avoid it as much as possible.
Yes, yeah, they to some extent you could say they exist to, ED is the platform and take a cut of third-party sales, and Razbam is the third party and they get a cut of their sales too. So
and they want to make money. Of course you do. It's a company, right? So we've had some cryptic statements from Razbam in the timeline. Then we had the response, like an official thing, and then a response from ED. What happened next?
Well, to my knowledge, there's not been anything more official from either side. What we've had is the devs. There's three devs in two devs that I've got here. We've had Gallinet in the past. I've not got anything from him in this section. Captain Smiley and Metal to Mesh are the two other devs that I've seen being vocal about this since on Discord. I think the Razbam Discord and Reddit. So from Captain Smiley on Reddit, he said, "Hi all, I have decided to halt developing for DCS indefinitely. This was the final straw. We have not been paid up to date, many months worth, and this is incredibly insulting to see this statement. I wish you all the best. Thanks." So that was the first note we saw, because there was a lot of speculation about Razbam not getting paid or not getting the money they felt they deserved, and that was the first time someone from either party actually mentioned money. So that's another example of that going around the official accounts, as it were. Then from Metal to Mesh on Reddit, for context, he, who I'm taken to believe is Nick Gray. So Nick Gray is claiming Razbam improper action. Basically, he's saying Metal to Mesh is I don't think English is his first language, so we'll give him a break on the sort of syntax and grammar. Basically, he's saying by Ron trying to get him sales from South American Air Forces by making a Super Tucano, Ron worked with the FAE, which is I'll butcher it, Fuerza Aérea Ecuatoriana, or the Ecuadorian Air Force.
That's flawless. Yeah, exactly.
That was my Ecuadorian accent as well. It's pretty good. Making the module for free in return for help with information. He claims Ron stole money, which is just a projection to cover his own deception that he originally has done since the beginning pre-sales. So I'll try and say that again with who I think he's talking about. So Nick Gray claims Ron stole money, which is just a projection to cover Nick Gray's own deception that Nick Gray originally has done since the beginning pre-sales. So that is basically an allegation now, isn't it?
Yeah, and a pretty strong one.
Yeah, so you got another one here from Metal to Mesh on Discord saying you kept our money. Another one saying, how is anyone going to work on something they're not getting paid? We wanted to put pressure to ED to start doing what they need to. They ignored us, threatened us. We said enough is enough, and now here we are. We just want to be paid and get back to work. And again, Melt to Mesh. Nick Gray is making up the reason they didn't pay us. Ron has receipts. He is telling other third party that excuse to sow discord between all of us. Ron actually showed them that Nick Gray was making it up, straight up defamation. Ron is not trying to escalate this, just wants to get back to his devs being paid so they can work on their planes, but it is hard with morale so low due to no payments. We tried to continue on, and as most of you started to seeing it show in the work, which seemed like more bugs every update, like Captain Smiley, I am done with a studio who treats people with contempt. Our lives have been a nightmare. We can't believe this is happening. We are all just tired. Wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. As time goes on, maybe I'll say more. I don't know how true it is, but it is a commonly held rumour, at least, that since the Hawk debacle, where the module was abandoned and no further work could be done on it because of lack of source code, it's rumoured that that ED wanted to take the source code for future modules so that they can pick it up or give it to somebody else if it's abandoned. Whereas Captain Smiley has indicated that ED does not have the Strike Eagle source code. So that was one of the things that I was putting up as something they could be disputing about. But then, Metal to Mesh is coming in pretty strong with the alleged missing funds route. What do you feel about that?
Well, personally, at least from my line of work, for example, delivering the source code for all developed software that you have been developing for a customer, for a client, is pretty normal. Is actually stated in every contract. So I don't think that's anything strange or anything unusual.
Were any of you around for the Hawk?
No, Hawk was before
I wasn't.
me.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it. One of my mates did, and sour taste in your mouth. You suddenly effectively. I mean, I know technically they couldn't do anything about it, and you could go back. I think they said something like you could go back and play on the version that it was.
They kept that DCS version around for a while, didn't they? That supported it.
Yeah, but it's just crazy that you could pay. I know games don't last forever, but the game's still going, right? And the fact that you suddenly just. I don't remember how much it cost. It was the price of whatever a normal module is, and a bit less probably at the time. But it was crazy to me that happened. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So Veltro, what you said there about delivering source code being normal, do you think there's a difference between what your situation, your experience, and the situation that we've got here, where presumably ED-Razbam have some IP in there? They're not fully delivering a product to ED, are they? It's something that they probably still have some rights to.
I understand what you mean. Of course, we would need to look at the contract and all the arrangements they have. In my line of work, which has nothing to do with Ego Dynamics and game developer, but it's general software development, we actually, the contract states quite clearly that all the complete IP is transferred to the client, to the customer. So for all intents and purposes, we deliver the source code. Sometimes we deliver a compiled project, so an application executable. And basically from that point on, is no longer ours. And we cannot do anything about that. And again, this is the norm, at least in my field. I'm sure this is a little bit different, because in my line of work, the customer comes to you and tells you, I need you to build this. You draft a contract, you sign it, and then you deliver the project, the program, and then you're done. So it's definitely different from this. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the contract between third-party developers and ED stated something similar, that complete IP is transferred to Ego Dynamics.
I saw something very interesting on a random Discord that I'm in. Someone, I believe, is a lawyer, saying their job is, they always negotiate contracts, of course, and nobody will sign them unless both parties think they're happy. So I think that's really interesting. So we obviously don't know what's in the contract, but they both went away from that, presumably being happy enough. So, whether that would say something like, oh, well, if your company goes under or something horrendous happens, like you'll die, there would be no way to hand over the IP, right? So would you put it up front? That's what I would logically have thought,
Yeah.
You use it or not, you don't. But the other side might be, maybe they were just happy to say, no, if your company does dissolve, we will hand it over then. Because that's normally what happens in the stuff I'm sort of involved with work. It will be like, if our company goes under, what will we do? And there's a part of the contract that says it. Whether I actually think it will genuinely happen ever, I don't think it will. I think they're not what debate they're in on, but
lawyers charge by the hour, so you're damn sure it's going to be written to the fullest.
Yeah, and if both parties went away happy, I wonder which side of that line it's on. And obviously they have said in one of the messages that ED doesn't have the IP yet.
But you raise a good point. If ED-Razbam, presumably, we haven't seen the contracts, if ED-Razbam were not happy with their contract, we wouldn't have a Strike Eagle, would we? Why would they do their work either out of contract or having signed a contract that they didn't intend to adhere to?
or they didn't really have a choice if they wanted to be in the market. But I don't. It's unlikely that I would say.
I know from my previous experience in the past with a group of friends, we tried to approach Eagle Dynamics and offer to be a third-party developer. It was a long time ago. And in the end, I remember I was not in charge of anything of this. I was tagging along. But I do remember that the contract was very clear. It was very clear cut. Everything was laid out. At least the first draft, let's say, the first part that they actually showed us was extremely clear, and there was not much room for interpretation, let's say.
Are you allowed to segue and tell us what was the plane? Was it the Starfighter? I know.
Yes, of course. Of course it was.
Yeah.
For context, this guy is the biggest F-104 Starfighter.
If anyone listening cares, you want to get in Veltro's good books, you get him something Starfighter related. We recently got you a gift for a wedding, or gifts, and before whilst I was thinking about what to get you, I was looking at all sorts of Starfighter wall art and
Starfighter pajamas.
Yeah.
But I did tell you about. Yeah, well, for sure. I did tell you about a time where I almost got my hands on half a TF-104G Starfighter fuselage with complete cockpit and everything.
Oh, geez, where would you put it?
In my father's factory building.
Inside his Starfighter, which you were going to restore to operational.
Yeah, but one of my...
You helped make a mod for another sim, didn't you? That was the Starfighter. Or
yes, yeah. I worked on... to be honest with you, I joined the team when the Starfighter was already done, so I actually did not... I partially did. I worked on a remake of the radar. But the team did build the F-104 Starfighter. The boss of the team was actually an ex-Starfighter pilot with many thousands of hours. Yeah.
Was this a full Italian team?
It was indeed. So lots of hands were waved. We did eat a lot of pasta, yeah.
Lots of spaghetti thrown at the wall.
Yes.
That's just a thing that people do, apparently. You see the spaghetti's done, throw it at the wall. I think if it sticks, it's done. I don't do that, but
I've tried it. I tried it once. I don't see how it's going to work. Yeah.
Waste a good pasta. So, final point on this is that Heatblur, to my knowledge, is kept stum. They haven't commented. I've got a screenshot of a message from Hipshot, who appears to be a moderator in the Heatblur Discord. I mean, there's a bit about people acting nice in the Discord, and then he says, or they say, there won't be any official statements from our side. So Heatblur was literally mentioned in Razbam's first official post, first and only official post on the matter. And Heatblur have said that, well, the moderator for Heatblur, so this could be subject to change. I said that they're not going to say anything about it. So interesting.
I'm really intrigued to how wrong we're all going to be with all of our wild stuff.
We've been wrong so far, so it's plausible.
Yeah, I mean, everything we're saying right now is probably the exact opposite is going to happen, and obviously we're purely guessing. And
by the time the episode is out,
yeah, exactly. Maybe no more in a week, but it makes sense that everyone else will stay out of it, right? It doesn't tell us anything, unfortunately. That if they'd said something really like, "Oh yeah, no, us too," that would have been very interesting.
Yeah,
but I mean, of course they didn't say anything.
Well, I mean, there's no official statement. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and the ED official message intimated that this seemed without warning, didn't it? Now, we don't know how true that is. Like, what you'd expect from these people is them to go and sort it out behind closed doors and give everyone confidence that the marketplace is running well and smoothly, and everyone's going to get on and keep making stuff and keep taking our money. So it could be that Heatblur are contributing to discussion behind closed doors. It could be that they don't feel the same way as Razbam. I don't think we're going to know about that. I don't imagine we're going to find out. Like, Heatblur,
I don't think we'll ever find out, to be honest with you, unless I don't know, ED is actually going bankrupt, which of course they have
Yeah,
said,
some tell-all.
what are you on about?
Some wags tell-all afterwards. He writes his memoirs. My impression of Heatblur is this is my personal impression, is they're relatively classy.
Yeah, they're more.
There's been some drama, but I totally missed it and followed. Didn't half of them split off and go work on something else?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, at least on this matter. But I was meaning to ask you, particularly you guys are more up to date than me. I know that there had been some messages about all this drama that was going to unfold in the past weeks, months maybe, from Razbam people. Has there been anything similar from other developers? I know someone else, maybe, I remember something about the C130 developers, maybe?
I know what you mean. I'm going to stall for time whilst someone like Lovo, who actually pays better attention as of their memory, looks it up on Google quick.
I did go looking for it because someone mentioned that a little while ago. Airplane Simulation Company are making the C130 and stuff.
Was it something along the lines of like it's been a real pain to work with them or something?
Yes, that was it. Yes, they said something about I'm paraphrasing. This is not a direct quote by any means, but they said something along the lines of you couldn't imagine a more sort of unpleasant group of people to work with. Describing ED was my take on what they said.
I love the way that's sort of like after what I said last week. I was like, no, they were lovely to us. It's
but they were.
Yeah, they are.
But we're not making. Well, we are making them money for free, aren't we? Like
we are.
There's no expectation between the two parties.
I suppose they just mean that these aren't our opinions. Don't sue us, right?
Yeah.
We're reporting on the news of the day. That would be the way you say it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Any opinions are those of the individuals and do not represent the position of DCS Olympus or the refugees.
Well, what we're saying right now, which probably doesn't count, I have no idea how the law works, but yeah. It's mostly repeating, paraphrasing badly what everyone else has been typing constantly all over Reddit, all over Discords. Like, did you see how quick the chat was going in the ED main chat?
And they enabled slow mode. Still, it was like multiple people all typing.
It's the first time that I've come back to our server, to the refugees, and I just couldn't be asked to read through it all. Like, there were so many messages of people jumping in and discussing it.
So many memes.
Yeah.
If you read it, though, it was mostly us discussing like weird quirks of Italian and Latin and stuff. It was...
Indeed. I mean, it's everything shite comes in them. How do verbs work in Italian?
We very quickly got off-piste and did our usual weirdness and talking rubbish. It was great fun.
But yeah, I think one thing we can all agree on, and is that we are all wrong, and anyone that takes a strong stance either way is probably wrong. And I
think it would be fair to say as well, like even say I was a developer at Razbam, I'm only going to hear one side of the story from Ron or whoever. So whatever's happening there, even they wouldn't get a proper picture potentially, right? So, and I get with like, I can't remember, was it Dave Chappelle? He said, "Don't ever take away a man's food source or income or whatever it was." It's the way to really piss them off. And like, it's true, right? Like, if you threaten someone's livelihood and their family and whatever, because that's what taking money out of someone's hands ultimately sort of is. Of course, you get really strong reactions from people. It's horrible. Yeah, if it's true. Yeah. So I can see.
Yeah, I think I've done small amounts of work in sort of film and TV, and I think the first thing, or they should teach you at least in like film school, is don't fuck with the money. If you're going to bring people in, you might, young directors might not treat people that well, might not be that prepared. But if you said, "Oh, come and do this on my project, and I'll buy in some pizzas," the pizzas better fucking come. You know what I mean? Like,
Amen.
The difference, the difference between, they better have pineapple on them. That's all I'm saying.
Oh no!
I think that's a message we can all get behind. Yes. I agree strongly.
Goodbye, everyone. It's been a lovely being here.
But yeah, like that is the basis of why people agree to do things, and it really changes the atmosphere and the sort of respect between parties if someone does quote unquote fuck with the money,
And it goes back to the media manager or public voice comment, right? Because you can be extremely pissed, but whatever you say probably isn't the right thing to say, even if it's true. And it doesn't help you. You just look, understandably, but you just look bad.
Yeah. I can't imagine how I would react if I was in the same situation. I probably...
You're fired from Olympus. Let's see. Not that that's my decision to make, but you're fired. Alan,
you still owe me 1.5 years of pay, you bastard. But yeah. But yeah, I think it's sadly for them. I think it's one of those situations where you would want to scream and say a lot of stuff and curse everyone. But whatever you say, it's going 99% of the chances is that you're going to say something you're going to regret, either today, especially tomorrow, in a week
later, right? I thought there was, I can't remember who it was, but there was one comment where we didn't really understand what it was saying, but we tried to interpret it as best we could, and it felt like the intent was that it was meant to be, this is ED bad. But if you really read it line by line, I was like, hang on, are they not saying the opposite by accident?
Yeah.
Just angry and you're typing or whatever. It can be misinterpreted. Meaning, I'm sure it wasn't meant to say that at all, or at least to come across that way or whatever.
I think it was the comment about doing work with the Ecuadorian. I'm sure they're near the equator, but they're Ecuadorian air forces, and it
for the Tucano.
Yeah, it implied that they had some relationship, then they were providing things, and may or may not have had permission to do so.
Exactly. Like the worst case scenario, you are basically admitting that you did something wrong. Best case scenario, you tell people that it's 50-50, it's unclear, it's not clear cut, it's not like either party. And I think personally this is actually the case, to me at least. It's clear that neither party is completely in the right and the other one is completely in the wrong. Something happened, and it's a matter of interpretation. So just keep it quiet and wait for legal people maybe, or someone else that actually has
laws and contracts are very complicated always, aren't they? That's why we have to pay lawyers so much money. We want them to do stuff and check things for us. And if you do make a sweeping statement, you might find that some thing that you didn't mean like that gets interpreted in the wrong way illegally because of the wording of the contract or something. You've now shot yourself in the foot.
Plus you are talking about military and exchange of information and possibly not I think not stuff you should talk about lightly in a public forum, at least.
It's what it felt like to me. So, right, okay, so I know we cannot guess what this really is. But
let's guess.
Let's guess. You should try. Because if you read the reading into bits of those comments...
Shall I finish the statement from Melt to Mesh that we've been talking about?
Oh, sorry, I thought we'd read that one out.
I've pulled up more because it might help us. So after we talked about the Ecuadorian Air Force, so this is the disagreement with the improper actions of not obtaining MCS licenses, which is the military or government version of DCS, of not obtaining MCS licenses, in which Razbam have already signed a contract with the CEO. It says not Mr. Gray, which is I don't know what that means. I thought he was the CEO, maybe he's not. In obtaining, as they state, they are quote are seeking a reasonable and forward-looking outcome rather than entertaining legal claims. End quote. Basically, we took Razbam's money because we didn't want to allow due process by a fair trial by a jury. Also, I myself would like you to know anything we did in DCS had nothing to do with MCS. Funny thing, we never put the Super Tucano in MCS yet, or even tried it in DCS. I know, because I was still working on it in 3ds Max.
So it's treason, because if it's a trial by jury, it's because if it was a civil matter, correct me if I'm wrong, no lawyers and no jury, right? So
I don't think so. Yeah, I think. Well, I mean,
so obviously he's just typing hyperbole or whatever, right?
Yeah, so. He's intimating that Eagle Dynamics are trying to force ED-Razbam's hand by withholding the funds that they can, because they are the route through which funds comes to third parties, and instead of actual taking legal action, which would involve facts being presented in front of a court, that they're doing this instead. That's what I think he's intimating.
And the thing we don't really know, but it reads a little bit like from the message, and probably reading massively way too much into it, is it Ron went over and talked to Ecuador about doing a Tucano and MCS, which is the military version of DCS, right? And was talking about doing that. We don't know if stuff was happening. Obviously, he said, well, I've not made the 3D models for it yet, so obviously not. And we're guessing the thing that ED might not be happy about is the fact that MCS is like theirs, right? So you'd want to be included.
Or they took some money for a part of the process that ED feels is their process, if that makes sense. Like, you know, if ED wants to be the be-all end-all arbiter of MCS and government contracts, and then should Razbam rock up to a government and say, yeah, give us 10 grand and we'll knock up something, see if you like it, you could go talk to ED, naively thinking that ED would be okay with that.
We're obviously guessing, right, and trying to interpret.
Complete guesses, complete interpretation. Yeah,
it could be that. Yeah, that's the way it reads to me anyway.
Yeah, there's so many different interpretation, and I guess depending on the specific interpretation, either party could be more wrong or more right. I know wrong. Like these are very clear-cut words, and I don't think anyone is either completely wrong or right. But the devil is in the details, isn't it? So
yeah, the one thing that I'm confident, because it's an opinion, is that I wish that
it hadn't happened. It hasn't. It's not going to help anyone, is it? It's just bad overall.
Well, that, yeah, I agree with you there. On saying it did happen, then I wish that Razbam did have a better handle on its devs, because whilst I appreciate them spilling the tea that we can sit here and talk about, and making it quite exciting for good or bad reasons, it does feel like some bridges have been burnt through people expressing themselves, and it does feel that it would have been.
And we could be all the poorer for it, right? Because
yes.
You love the Strike Eagle.
I love the Strike Eagle, and it's clear that Gallinet, Metal to Mesh, I'm not too familiar with Captain Smiley, but if he's worked on the Strike Eagle, he's obviously done some good work, some sort of high level work. If they really have that bad feeling, and then that bad feeling, then ED also has a problem with them because of what they said, then they might not end up working on the module again. That'd be a great shame.
Hopefully, yes. Maybe a contract gets redrawn or something like that, addresses the problems and whatever the issue is and rehashed out, and it will take a while to mend burnt bridges and things like that, but maybe in the future, because ultimately for us, that's what we hope for, right? We do like what both of them, not what they're doing specifically here, but like the actual products. Like, I love DCS Flight Sim, love some of the Razbam stuff that they make, because I don't fly at all, but
yes, the community, the game will be worse off if their modules no longer got updates. If that Harrier, South Atlantic, Mirage, Strike Eagle, the MiG-23 is being worked on. Obviously, the cause for discussion, Super Tucano, the Pucara, the assets they're working on with the South America stuff, South Atlantic stuff. So lots of British assets in there. That's how we got the. Is it the Hermes or is it the Invincible?
It was the Invincible, but isn't it like almost the same ship? I can't remember. I was going to say the Leander class or Castle class destroyer. Yeah,
MiG-19 as well. I'm just looking on their channels.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we'd all be a little bit worse off. We'd be reduced as a
100%.
As a game if those things, because eventually, if they weren't worked on, it would be a hawk again. DCS would progress to a point they didn't work in it anymore, and they'd have to disappear, wouldn't they? So.
And now we've come full circle back to the hand over your IP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go on, Veltro.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. I think even if you are not interested in any of the modules that Razbam has developed or is developing or is planning to develop in the future, having less third-party developers is never going to be good for the game overall. Like, how many times have you fought flown against people with planes that you would never fly, but they are, or with people with planes you never fly, but they're still there and they're still capable. The more variety, and even a little bit, the more competition between different third-party developers there is, the better for the environment, for the community.
Definitely good for us, yeah.
Last thing I'll say on the matter, because I think we're drawing to the done it to death point. Heatblur have, to my knowledge, I went to check this earlier, but the DCS website was down, which was fueling people's abject panic, wasn't it?
DDoSed by the Razbam gang.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
But the F4 Phantom, the Heatblur has taken the pre-order and put it on their own website, haven't they?
Obviously, that was before all of this happened. Are you thinking potentially this was sort of related? Like, as in things that were behind the scenes beforehand, or just random thing they did?
Well, I think it's... My impression originally was that, they want more control of it. They want to do bundles. You can't do bundles on... I've not seen anyone do a bundle with physical products on... the ED website, on the DCS
that's
website.
What I thought it was.
But Razbam have named Heatblur in this, which may mean that Razbam know that Heatblur's involved somehow, and if Heatblur seem to be diversifying with Microsoft Flight Simulator products and making sure they get all of their pre-order money separately through the Eagle Dynamics marketplace.
It's also possible, sorry if I cut you off, Tony, it's also possible, in my opinion, that Razbam was maybe trying to get some help from Heatblur, or even create. I think so. Or the other possibility, again, not accusing anyone here, just speculation, since clearly the objective of this message from Razbam was to steer the community, as they very successfully did, in order to put some pressure on Eagle Dynamics, maybe dropping the name of some other big important third-party developer would cause even more panic. Like, people are already saying, like, is the F4 coming? Is everyone leaving Eagle Dynamics and everything? So I think the objective was to say it's not only us, it's everyone, just put even more pressure on Eagle Dynamics.
Yeah. So interesting times, lots of speculation. Don't take anything we've said as fact other than the things that we've quoted from people.
And we've quoted them wrong because we're not looking at them directly. With the F14 thing, just to go back to it a bit, I think that the code for the F14 in MSFS, the actual kind of systems bit of it, is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure I saw someone today say that the flight model was required a full rework. There was some of it required, it didn't
maybe
translate.
So if they've done that, which would make logical sense, you don't take any of the things from DCS, which are ED's things, and take them out and then put them into another sim in case you're breaching IP or whatever it is. Maybe that's why they did that, or maybe it's just a different game and it needed designing differently, but you could maybe read into that potentially as as another sort of snippet on the top of it.
Yeah, a friend of mine is a 3D modeler, and if I remember correctly, has been involved in this process. I think the only parts that they have translated to Microsoft Flight Simulator is the 3D modeling, the textures maybe, potentially. Maybe the sounds, like the art, let's say, part of the product.
Which is obviously theirs, right, as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are platform agnostic, we could say, in some way. So there's nothing proprietary. Of course, again, it all depends on the contract. But I'm sure that they discussed this with Eagle Dynamics. They didn't go behind their backs.
Yeah, I would love to see the quote-unquote standard contract. It would answer some questions, wouldn't it? But that's not going to happen, let's be honest.
It could be 3 or 4 years if it's a legal thing before anyone really finds out what happens. And I reckon in a couple of months, hopefully, well, for our point of view, things are a bit more back to normal and there's less drama and stuff. And hopefully there are some updates to things like the Strike Eagle, even if we don't end up with a MiG-23 or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, we listed a few things last time that were purely cosmetic changes. We'll see if they come out on the next patch, but yeah, we'll be living with it as is until something's set right, I suppose, in those two parties' eyes. Do we draw a line underneath that? I was going to bring up our distinguished guest slash guest host, Mr. Veltro.
Yep.
And you've alluded to some of your experiences and your expertise there, but perhaps it's time you just talk a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself. Yeah, let us know what's it like being Mr. Veltro.
Oh, wow. Well, apparently it's about being very short and hairy.
We know that. That's we've discussed that.
Well, compared to you, Lovo, everyone is short, so it doesn't really apply. But yeah, no, I am have been involved in software development for a while now, but my study has been in aerospace engineering. I got a master's degree here in Milan, in Politecnico di Milano, and then I worked a little bit as a flight test engineer, and then I moved to basically software development, but I never got a formal programming education, and I think if anyone looked at my code on GitHub, that really shows. Anyhow, I think I got reasonably good at stealing answers from Stack Overflow.
That's what everybody does. It's the way to do it.
Yeah. And by doing that enough, I apparently have fooled you guys into thinking I am a good programmer. But yeah,
better than me.
Yeah, I think for all intents and purposes, that's the interesting bit. Of course, Olympus has come to be, anyone who listened to the first episode of your podcast, has come to be as the result of Tony's original work. So I think it's fair to say that the current version everyone can use and download is a natural development, a natural evolution of that. Of course, Tony has been putting his good work in the Lua mines.
Rubbish. It's a massive team thing. That's the thing you said in Casimo's interview, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, naturally.
Loads of people are involved now, and it's
that was what I was going to say after I complimented you. Jesus.
Yeah, but don't compliment me.
But yeah, it's a big team effort, and I think after the first month after release, which has been incredibly busy, we took a little bit of not going to say break, because we kept working on fixing bugs and everything that we discovered after.
I mandated for our sanity a 3-month hiatus, and it lasted like 30
Yeah, it was almost adhered to, wasn't it?
It was a bit by me. I lasted like 2 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah, well, the Christmas vacation holidays helped a little bit, but I have to say there has been a instance where we were at dinner at my wife's place, and basically my wife.
You guys don't live in the same house?
No, we went back to our hometown basically for the Christmas vacation.
Was your second wife's place, or?
It's Italian, yeah.
No, my wife's parents' place, to be more precise. And it was this very, very peculiar scene where my wife, her father, and her grandmother were playing cards on one end of the table, and I was on the other end of the table with my laptop working on the new manager for Olympus. And this was on Christmas Eve. So.
And you messaged me about this as well, and I responded, which is bad, right? But the thing I thought was funny is that you said they thought they were. I'm sure they're subscribed to this podcast, so
yeah, sure.
Getting out now. They thought you were working on work, didn't they?
Well, you see, that is the great advantage of my position. I can always say I am working, I never have to say on what. So everybody thinks I work all the time, and I'm absolutely a workaholic.
Oh dear, newly married, the subterfuge is already starting. You'll have your own flat next. It's just where I keep my my sim pit gear, honestly.
Well, it took me like 4 years of living together to carve a little place for my scale models. So I'm going to stick to that for the time being. Maybe in the next 10 years, I'll get
you have models of scales?
Yes.
It's a really nice one. He's got one that weighs 104 grams and goes at Mach 2.
So yeah.
Why don't you take us through the transition from the F10 marker original concept to sort of version 0.1 of Olympus?
That's a very good question, actually. I think, if I remember correctly, it all started when I tried to make a sort of game mastery kind of mission for our group, the refugees, and I'd never used the mission editor before, apart from for adding some slots or something, and it was all flags and it was all F10 menu, not F10 map, but F10 menu triggers and stuff like that, and it was super simple. Then I discovered about Tony's work, and I tried to use it. I think it was from one of our Vietstan rotary missions, and I remember one thing that happened is that Tony chose as the special character to begin a command in the F10.
I'm remembering what this was now.
He used, I think, a tilde. It was the special command you had to put in.
I didn't even have to type it until I started trying to use that thing. I had to copy paste it.
Yeah, and there is no tilde on Italian keyboards. So yes.
I definitely did that on purpose. I didn't realize at the time, but it was perfect.
So every time I wanted to, of course, there's the alt number sequence which I now know. I think it's alt 125, something like that. But back in the day, I didn't. So I had to Google the word tilde on Wikipedia, open the Wikipedia page, and copy the tilde symbol and paste it in the damn flag.
Didn't in one of the missions I say something to you, dude, you're right. Why are you going so slow?
Yes. And then I asked Tony to change the character to do me this favor, and it did. And it chose the apostrophe, but it chose the fancy apostrophe version, which is also, I call it that way because it's the one that is a little bit more tilted compared to the more vertical apostrophe. I don't know if this makes any sense to non-Italian people, but the only apostrophe on Italian keyboards is not the one Tony chose. So I was back to square one. So I
bet he spent hours researching that.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. So I said, you know what, fuck it. There must be a better way to do this.
I'm actually crying. Like how funny this is because it's so accidental.
And yeah, version 1 is basically I start hacking into the DCS code because as your listeners may be aware, there's a thing called sanitation. I don't remember. Sanitation. Yeah, sanitation, which is a very clever thing that basically makes it so that if you download a random mission from the internet and you run it on your computer, it's not going to steal all your credit card accounts and whatever.
And that keeps it in a bubble away from your important stuff, or your non-DCS stuff.
Runs it in DCS and doesn't allow it to get out, basically.
Right.
Correct, exactly. You're in a very protected environment. And that really puts a limit to what you can do, naturally, because, of course, you can turn it off, but I was already thinking about something people could use, and I didn't want everyone to have to do that. Plus, it also resets every time you update DCS, so it would have been very inconvenient. So I started hacking, and of course I started making subtle questions to Tony about how do you do that? I was wondering, for no particular reason, but have you ever tried to do this? And
are you going to tell them the full truth? That's what I want to know. Because you know what I mean, don't you?
Maybe I do, but I think it's best if you say that.
Well, I maybe need to message you secretly behind the scenes, because this all came about because of something else I'd made, hadn't it? Do you get where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Does it start with an A and then with a W?
It does,
With an
yes.
S in the middle.
Now you said ASW, it's probably pretty clear. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Finally, I think it's time we announce to everyone that Olympus is a very complex piece of software that has the only purpose to allow us to run anti-submarine warfare missions in DCS. But yeah, Tony is referring to a very clever piece of script he made, which for some reason we only used once. I think we got sidetracked by Olympus and we didn't use it anymore. But we had this amazing mission where basically I would play as a submarine and the rest of the refugees were flying helicopters and maybe some airplanes, maybe some F5s, I don't remember. And they were trying to find me and sink me. So the very clever bit of this is that Tony made this incredible array of sensors that the helicopters could use, like sonar and
there were little animations on the F10 map, weren't there, showing you sonar returns.
Let me paint the picture. So we would fly around in the Huey, and we needed it to be too crude because you had to hover over the water. And you would F10 lower buoy, or no, it's not a buoy, is it? It's a detector or something, and you get a zzz,
there were sonar buoys. You could drop them.
You could drop sonar buoys. You had a MADS detector.
And you had your winch sonar. You could lower
and the winch sonar. Yeah. So you drop
basically it made cold waters in DCS with like Hueys.
It's one of your favorite games, isn't it? Cold Waters.
Big fan. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of fun, and as Veltro said, it is truly a shame that we only played it the one time, because I don't know if it just went over people's heads. Like, we
played it so much in testing that I feel like we played it like 50 times.
Well,
that's true.
One of the more spectacular parts was the torpedoes. You put torpedoes on Hueys, functional torpedoes on a Hueys. So we were going crazy with them.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I was moving around.
Stuff in that I've still never seen anyone do, but I think at some point we need to put it in Olympus. Right?
Yeah, in the end, we need to go full circle and put it in Olympus.
Well, when you can pull up the web page on inside, like the Heatblur was showing, then you can have your sonar detector in the cockpit.
Exactly.
Otherwise, only Olympus can see it.
Because that's what you promised me, wasn't it? Like something where you could integrate in with the game, and we could have the sonar map. Because the other context of this is the video I made to teach people how to play it was in Italian.
Yes. Yeah, and wasn't it? It was gobbledygook, right? Didn't you just tell Veltro to talk for 5 minutes while you played subtitles?
Yes. Yes, and like 99% of it was like, since Tony can't understand a single word of what I'm saying, I'm going to talk shit about him and his mother. Just, for the But yeah, and now that I think about this, I think, if I remember correctly, one of the things I need to do in that mission, of course, was also, quote unquote, make people win, because otherwise it would have been boring. And at one point they did this amazing Ride of the Valkyrie style attack on Hueys with torpedoes, and I know I'm going to break the heart of a lot of refugees, but after 2 years, you need to know the truth. Everyone missed, sadly. And so I scrambled to actually put some...
They were homing torpedoes. How did we miss?
I have no clue. All I know is that I had to spawn some depth charges on my location to kill myself and make everyone think they hit.
What a hero.
Joy,
what a hero,
yeah, Jesus. Yeah, you heard it from Lovo, the man himself. But yeah, the joy they had when they saw the explosion, and then I started making a lot of other secondary explosions. Everyone was so happy about it. It was a very good mission. Everyone had so much fun. And if I remember correctly, during that mission, I went, there must be a better way, because I couldn't type fast enough to get the big explosion I wanted to achieve. If I remember correctly, it's been like 2 years now, something like that.
4. It's been 4 years, mate.
Jesus. Okay. Really? That long?
3 or 4, I think, for that one. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
This is way before Olympus, though, isn't it? Like, Way before. I'm not counting the original because that's not. It's very similar idea, very different execution. Right? It's actually usable. One.
But from that, I actually deceived Tony into making him think I was working on a better sonar external.
I was so willing to give you all this like help with how DCS works behind the scenes, wasn't I? And I was like, getting a sonar thing. And then he rings me up one day. He's like, I've got something to show you. I was like, yes, the submarine thing's here. We're going to be famous, boys. And it was just so much better.
To be fair, I did start working on the sonar interface. I got to a very good point, but when I started to actually work in DCS to get the data out, I actually realized we could make Olympus out of that, and that is where the first kernel of Olympus started. Of course, at the very beginning, Dogma, our lovely, as has been described as our design god, but don't say that too many times. He already thinks he's the best in the world, but he really is. The initial UI was a little bit more crude than what it is now.
It was absolute perfection. I would have nothing to say bad about. My parrot wheels and spinning little things with the paper aeroplanes was just peak like perfection. It was absolutely could not top that. It'll be
cyclical. We'll come back around to that in a year or two.
For sure. It's like iPhone's corners
and flared trousers.
One high
and low usability, so it's more like going back to a rotary phone or something.
Well, they control it with your brain. That's what you won't need the menus.
Oh wow, DCS brain implants.
Well, Elon just promised something pretty big there, so Elon Musk, look out.
Yeah.
Jeez. Olympus Link. That was it. That was the beginning of Olympus, of course. But along the way, a lot of people have joined the team, and everyone has brought their insights. I think it's safe to say that without every member of the group, Olympus would have been very different to what it ended up being. And
I can think of one person who probably didn't change that much in the way it would have gone.
I know who you mean, but you were there from the very beginning, so it definitely wouldn't have happened without you.
No, you're too nice. You're too nice. I'm the head cheerleader, but as we saw from the reception, it sold itself.
Yes. One of the things I'm most happy about is the fact that we got so much positive feedback. I think we did get some negative feedback, of course, otherwise it's impossible to have 100% feedback. But what I've noticed is that most of the people that were not happy or were not really thrilled by Olympus were people that use DCS in a different way. Maybe they do single player mostly. Maybe they do player versus player mostly.
People who love anti-submarine warfare a lot, like me.
People who are trying to run it on a Mac virtual machine in a different country through a dial-up modem. Like, how can I do this? Surely it's possible.
Yes. Well, apart from this, I know people have different. Everyone appreciates their own flavor of DCS, so I absolutely understand this. Olympus is not for everyone. I'm actually, to be honest with everyone, I was surprised by the amount of people that were actually interested in our interpretation of DCS in the end, because we built Olympus to our needs and our specs, didn't we? So
yes.
we built something we needed, we wanted.
One of our core sort of fundamental points throughout the process was that we were making the thing that we wanted, and we were going to, as a happenstance, allow other people to use it. So if someone said, oh, can't it do this, make it do that, the answer is no, because we don't give a shit about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, in the end.
That said, so many people have had such great ideas and stuff like that that would.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Lots of them which we've also thought about ourselves, of course. But it's time to do everything, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. We have
the
like
people,
one.
People were super lovely, right? Like if you had to pick a number, it's like 99.98%.
Remarkably positive in the ratio. Remarkably positive.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that we've not been able to leverage more of the people who've come forward with different expertise, like Rifle, the JTAC. I was excited about sort of bringing him in and getting his expertise, but then it turned out that we weren't at a point to start implementing or creating any JTAC related stuff, so it didn't. We couldn't leverage him in the end.
Software stuff goes slow, doesn't it?
Yeah, the fact that he was willing to contribute was great.
It'd be exciting when it happens.
Yeah, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, I think, first of all, because of my ignorance and my me not being very good at developing front-end software, which I basically learned while doing Olympus. So of course, every time you learn something while doing, you end up at the end and you want to remake everything from scratch. We have some technical depth in some parts of the front end. I think the back end, and by that I mean the part that runs inside DCS, is pretty solid. I don't have anything major that I would like to change in that. The front end part can definitely be optimized, can definitely be made in a way that would greatly speed up the development process. Most of all, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the future of Olympus, what we are thinking about.
Before we jump on
that. Don't. Banned. You not remember ages ago I was like, we'll never tell anyone until it comes out.
Well, no, I'm going to talk about what we already have done, and it's going to be in the next version of Olympus. So
it's your baby. You are in charge. You do whatever you like. I think you probably should do that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be very, very quick. We focused mostly on the general usability of Olympus when it comes to installation. That's the main focus. The next version of Olympus is going to try and decrease the initial complexity of getting Olympus up and ready. To be honest, the more time passes, the less I think this is actually necessary, because I don't know how many more people out there that are interested in Olympus and have not installed it yet, but still, I think
it does come with something very cool that you're not talking about, though. So people will be slightly excited for it when they see what it does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's not only installation. That's what we're trying to say. But in terms of development work we have put in the past few months, most has been about making the installation and the management process much more streamlined, in a way that people that have a little they're not very tech savvy can install it much more easily. We have removed some requirements in terms of running commands in the console and opening ports and everything. So hopefully anyone that had trouble and was unable to install Olympus in the first public version is going to be able to do it now. From that point on, I think we have so many ideas and we have so many possibilities in front of us.
It's not going to be the sonar. I can guarantee that.
Not immediately. Not immediately. But yeah, we have so much stuff waiting that we literally have the problem of deciding what we're going to do next, what idea we're going to implement next.
Yeah, I think naturally the pace has slowed down, especially comparing it to December. Because
thankfully,
yeah, you sort of set yourselves a goal to get out before Christmas.
Yeah,
and you were working hard to sort of crunch and achieve that. And then, as Tony said earlier, we had a bit of an enforced break. And then since then, we've been enjoying it and flying and playing DCS. And this sort of, before it was like, well, there's Olympus, and then there's going to be like a released Olympus, and that was a big change. Whereas for now, we're going from like Olympus version this one to Olympus version next one. Both are still if we take a little bit longer, well, people still have Olympus. It's just not the newest version. So I think it's natural that the pace is slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving us your life fucking story.
Not even going to talk about the Matt Wagner video.
Well, that's the next bit I've got queued up, and that'll probably about sort of fill our metaphorical slots, so to speak.
As much as I love a good Wags video, he didn't say very much, did he?
He said this. He said the same thing a couple of times, and that seemed to be based on the questions he either selected or was given. I don't know which way around it is. So for those unaware, Wags did a video on the main DCS YouTube channel where he answered some user questions. I think it's the first video that has been done like that. Does anyone else recall a time when they've directly answered questions in video format?
I don't.
No,
Perhaps
I don't.
he's done it in like the guest spots he's done on like a Movers podcast, I think, and perhaps Cosmo's podcast as well. So he has done some, but this was slightly different in that it was focused, prepared, and stuff like that.
It would have been great if it wasn't on like today. I think is
that. Yes, let's touch on that. I've already forgotten about all the drama today because we were reminiscing. So on the day where there's a major drama involving Eagle Dynamics and everyone's got questions and wants to know answers, obviously this video did not get shot and edited and uploaded today. This was clearly in the queue for at least a couple of days, I'd imagine. So it's not like they chose to have this situation, but it is quite funny, or however you want to call it, that on the day where people are sort of looking very critically at ED, they released this completely unrelated video about how their stuff's progressing and improving. So and they disabled comments, didn't they? I wonder if that was a late last-minute decision.
Yeah, I mean, it was to be expected, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
Poor Wag. I feel sorry for Wags in a way that it's a shame that he's made this video, he's put the work in, and then he'll have been overshadowed by this other drama. Bless him.
I do love hey, it's Wags from Eagle Dynamics.
Hey, Wags here from Eagle Dynamics. Yeah, it's good.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't generally see his face when I listen to his voice in videos.
Yes, he's normally doing like a Hornet new feature thing, isn't he?
Yeah. So to me, it was when you finally put a face to a voice.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, to me at least. It was.
Did you picture him before as a small, hairy Italian man?
Well, in my mind, both of you guys are small, hairy Italian guys. You just lost your way. Yeah.
So to summarize the video, he pointed out, because the questions were all related to performance, it was performance-themed video. So a lot of the questions were like, what's changing? How are you going to improve this? My frames are crap. Help me. That was like the theme of the video.
And those are very like real concerns for a lot of people, aren't they? So yeah, because I felt like he answered it in the first one, and he said multi-threading, a few other things,
and
like
work continues.
Yeah, and that's a fair answer, right?
Yes.
The problem is that was the answer to every single question.
If you've got like a 2060, if your computer's like 10 years old, like you're going to struggle a bit. Like,
I have a 1060.
Oh, he said that to like be insulting and not actually.
You've not even got a 2060.
No.
So when I sent you a VR headset, that was a waste of money.
I'd sold my 3070 a month back. I could have sold it to you.
Well, then I would have need to update everything else.
That whole problem. So to summarize the video, Wags pointed out that there have already been this year 2 updates to the multi-threading build. Work is ongoing. He pointed out that DLSS and FSR1 have been implemented because someone was like, I imagine this question was an old question, but it was like, when are you going to do, these new technologies? And he pointed out, well, we've already got, was it dynamic learning, super sampling? And I don't know what FSR stands for, but it's the equivalent for AMD, isn't it? They're looking to implement frame generation, which is a feature on DLSS 3.
Is that the AI frame generation thing? I know so little about all of this. I obviously know what multi-threading is. That's obvious, but
I think, well, the difference is AMD tend to do it in a way that's sort of more open. Anyone can pull it into their game if they've got the right engine. Whereas NVIDIA, because it's AI generated, they have to train an AI on the game so it knows what is likely the frame it has to generate. So there's some work to be done to get it. That's probably why they've got the NVIDIA logo on the splash screen now. For
very interesting. Okay.
For DCS. So we're looking at.
Hopefully they don't use Tony's game to train it. Otherwise, you will have random cows in the frame every now and then.
Just one frame of cow. I kind of want a burger. What's going on? I've got like.
You're giving away all of the secret Olympus Easter eggs.
I thought you were talking about the other game, the game that maybe we're not mentioning yet.
There's a lot of games where I put cows in top.
And this is why there's not been a Olympus update, because you fucking sparrows getting distracted like the Labrador from Up. And here's this other cool thing. I'm like, this is great. I love this. It's a shame nobody else could play it. And also, every day we're having 5 people say that they don't know how to port forward.
Can we talk about the first question specifically? Because that guy, whoever he was, I can't remember, I'm afraid, but he asked a very good question. And it was essentially, I want to see huge real life style stuff. And I know that's going to be.
I've got the transcript here if you want me to remind people.
It was essentially along the lines of he wants to do Desert Storm, and in order to do Desert Storm,
lots
realistically,
of units.
You need like 1,000.
Give me more
planes,
units was the
which really would be amazing. I know it's not going to be ever that simple to do, right, in a game without your computer dying, but I think maybe that wasn't answered. I know it's like, yes, there are things that will help improve performance, but
well, he kind of answered it a bit better later on. There was a following question where he talked about the 2 layers, the graphic layer and the logic layer, and that kind of answered the thing a bit better in my mind as to what the barriers are.
I just can't imagine us having like a real life situation. Do you know what I mean? It seems like too many planes. It just doesn't seem.
Well, if you want to simulate something,
they have to reinvent the game, which is obviously going to be too much effort, right?
Yeah, if you're going to simulate things, because we all complain about like the MiG-15 spaceship flight model as an AI, right? Well, if you want it properly simulated, that takes CPU, doesn't it? Somebody's CPU. And the more you're going to want it to be true to life, the more either you're going to have to be very, very clever with figuring out what corners you can cut in a way that it still works, and cheating things and hiding things behind simpler models, or you simulate it, and both of those require a lot of work.
Yeah, it's one or the other. That's a good point.
So yeah, DCS 2 layers, graphics and logic. Work so far has been on the graphics layer. Logic layer will improve the quantity of units, but he said that they're not expecting that this year. So I guess we're stuck with the AI limitations we have at this point. So if you set a lot of, as you know from Olympus, if you set a lot of units to attack something, oof.
Or to follow roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's real life, by the way. Like, if you tell like the British Army to drive up the M6, like the country stops working.
Everybody starts stuttering. People in Scotland walking at low FPS.
I feel like actually, Veltro, you're on you should stop saying those things, because you're on dangerous territory of upsetting somebody just by mentioning different areas of the country with any kind of negative context. Someone's going to be coming after you.
No. I'm not referring to any what do you say at the end of movies? Like any reference to real
characters,
people,
real or fictional, is purely coincidental.
Yes.
Apart from Dunk up in Edinburgh, right?
Oh yeah.
What have we got? So yeah, terrain engine improvements have been made. It's not been night and day in my opinion. I have managed to, I think, turn things up a little bit in that regard, but it's not been like, a significant percentage increase, which is fine. These things can be incremental.
I'm always a bit weird about like prettiness updates, because like I find all that happens is it's like when you're running or something and you're getting fitter. It doesn't get easier. You just turn it up how fast you're going, or in the analogy, how pretty the game looks, right? So
do you mean like when you have like a blocked up nose and all of a sudden it goes, but the day after it, like you're like, oh, I can breathe again, this is great, but the next day you forget, you just get used to it.
Unfortunately, yeah, and I think the game looks pretty good, I guess, to be honest.
Did you forget how good it looks?
Oh God,
he forgot. Well, really, we should be asking Veltro, because he's on the he's bottlenecked by every component by the sound of it. So
yeah.
Apart from his eyeballs, my eyeballs are broken. Yours aren't, are they?
I do wear glasses. So.
Oh shit, he's fucked.
Yes.
Pack it up, boys.
Yeah. Well, to me at least, I think right now I am the lowest possible spec that can run DCS in a usable way, and I have basically minimum settings on everything apart from those things that have a direct impact on my ability of not getting killed in 5 seconds, like, I don't know, draw distance of airplanes, that kind of stuff,
We've got someone in our group who has our fake virtual call sign, which is to do with flying into a tree because it appeared out of nowhere for him. I think his preload was so low, which I think is fantastic.
Yes, definitely. To me, at least, of course, I am very much outside of all of this discussion. Nothing that has been discussed applies very much to my rig, apart from multi-threading. I think I definitely saw a large improvement. My computer is definitely more CPU limited than GPU, and splitting on 2 cores, I think, or 2 threads, I think, really helped. I did see a considerable...
threads, you say?
Say again?
Sorry, that's a terrible joke. I love The Simpsons of Futurama. I was going, to threads, you say?
Don't waste
and the wife and family?
Me.
To threads, oh, I see.
And Olympus? To threads as well.
Oh, now I remember what you're referring to. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah. But at least to me, I do notice that when a lot of units are involved, my FPS really goes down, and particularly there are some bases, like for example Ramat David in the Syria map. I don't know what's about that air base, but I always get 20 FPS when I'm there on a good day.
If you start adding...
Yeah, that's possible, but I mean they're big rectangles. I don't know, but yeah, flying over cities. And on some particular airports really struggle. My computer really struggles.
Are you guys
Sorry.
Are you guys like me, where you've got one? I've picked one of the instant action missions. It's the Hornet Syria free flight. And
the one that comes in off of the coast and gives a assist. Yeah, that's my one.
Yes, so you do. Yeah, so we do the same thing. So I use that as the benchmark. So whatever I do, I put the FPS up on the screen and I run the same thing. So the least number of variables change. When I'm trying to squeeze frames, how much does this setting kill me? How much does this one improve?
Well, you see, I don't have this problem. I put everything to the left.
I need to get married again, and we'll buy some more hardware.
Okay, I'm going to give the news to my wife. Do I need to marry another person, or can I marry the same one?
I know she can probably hear you, so I can only imagine the look she's given.
Oh no, she's actually playing. I want everyone to know that Lovo is an absolute genius. He gifted my wife for our wedding a copy of Baldur's Gate 3, and she is still playing, even though we got married last October. And she's
making more use of it than I did then.
Yeah, she is. I'm literally looking at her playing. She has noise cancellation headphones on, so she doesn't hear my rumblings.
He's leaving you for a starfighter.
Well, she knows that already, and she's trying the same mission for the 5th time because she got her ass handed to her. So
that's cheating. I do it as well, but it's cheating.
Well, I don't know, but when I first looked at it...
She has to start a whole new character. You die, you start again. I don't know.
Jesus Christ. Well, when I started looking at the mission she's running, the cards of all the enemy players that show up on top, it went from one side to the other on a 4K screen, so I have no fucking clue what she got into, but everyone seems to be mad at her at this time.
Mate, you want to borrow her computer? It sounds better than yours.
Well, frame rate is not very good, but she doesn't care because...
Okay, right. She's a Tony. She just as long as a dog could watch it, she's happy, right?
Yes. So yeah, my sliders are all the way to the left, but I think, and I have a very good theory, this does put my mind at peace. Like I see a lot of people with incredibly good rigs. They are much more stressed out by performance than I am, because of course when you pay, I don't know, $5,000 for a top-of-the-line computer with a 4090 and 60 billion gigabytes of RAM and everything, you do want to get the performance you paid for, don't you? Whereas if you have a 10-year-old computer, you're just happy to play with your friends.
Hang about.
I love that. It's a Zen mantra.
What's that? I can't hear you, mate. I can't hear you over the sound of my 7090 XT. Sorry, what?
I can hear you, Veltro, and my 10 FPS gang supports your message. Hey, do you want a good segue to fade out on?
Always.
You know, you were saying about I was working on weird, stupid side projects all the time.
Yeah.
Do you want me to show you the next one?
Is that going to make good radio?
No, but it's what you fade out on it because you're going to love it, I promise you.
Okay, right, we'll say our goodbyes and then you'll hear me going ooh and ah. So, finishing off...
Fake it now, boys.
Ooh.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
No, this is turning into something we don't want it to turn into quick. It's my only fan.
Yeah, some people out there having...
about your graphics card either.
Some people out there having unusual thoughts now, aren't they?
Well, everybody needs to know that Lovo has a giant fan in his room when he plays, and you can hear it all the time. So we are starting to think he may be running a OnlyFans account, but it's
all that crypto mining. Let me finish off with the WAGS video. The only thing that we've missed that he said was that they're looking to get onto DLSS 3 frame generation and AMD frame generation. But FSR2 needs DirectX 12 or Vulkan, so we're not going to get those until Vulkan happens. That's all I've got to say about that. As I said up front, I'm talking to the listeners now. As I said up front, we don't intend to do these this frequently. It just so happens that, like I say, shit's kicking off, and we could have left all our completely wrong or seemingly completely wrong guesses out there hanging in the ether, or we can come back on and talk about all the interests. I mean, we've filled another hour and a half here, so we're doing pretty good. So unless people come out tomorrow and say more wild things, the next one, it should be in a more reasonable time frame, which is a matter of weeks, month, 4 to 6 weeks.
It has been a crazy day.
It has been, yeah. And I'll edit this probably tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, it's the weekend. Yeah, it might be Monday. So who knows what the fuck's going to happen between now and then.
You'll have to do a thing where it's like, hi, it's Lovo again, just coming back at the end of the podcast. The world ended and the X6 is gone.
The zombie apocalypse.
Or one of those like pre-recorded video things like, hi, if you're watching this, we've fucked up. We got it all wrong. And you can probably presume that it's the opposite of what we said.